I'm Joshua, and I'm an INTP, and first and foremost I would like to say thank you for viewing this video. Now, the topic of this video will be on INTPs and laziness. So, quite often, people will ask me, after finding out I'm an INTP, if I struggle with the absurd level of laziness as so many other INTPs claim, or that is commonly talked about in the Jungian typology community. And oftentimes what I tell these people is that there's a yes and a no, and it's not simply just an absurd amount of laziness or a lack of effort or motivation on my part. There's a great deal of nuance, and I have to say yes and no because there are different scenarios in which I engage in life, to whereas I put a tremendous amount of focus and attention towards it, and there's other scenarios in which I don't. And it would be primarily in the bureaucratic arena in which I'm lazy and I don't really care over due to the fact that I'm lazy. I'm in my early 20s, very early 20s, and I've been filing taxes for 4 years now. 4. And at no point in time in this 4-year span have I ever been motivated to file my taxes. They get done, but it's always at the last minute, and I'm never ever motivated to do it. Have I had sort of legal ramifications sort of come against me for outstanding fines? Because I had this outstanding fine one time. Yeah, because those types of details and things like that, they don't even enter into my brain. I don't necessarily care about them. I'm learning too, because I live on my own, to care about these things. But when one says I'm lazy, it's typically in those arenas, and in those areas, the bureaucratic ones, or the administrative hoops and different structures that exist in Western society that we have to regularly deal with, that I try to avoid like the plague often, but can't ever find myself to accomplish that. So I deal with them with infrequency, but I deal with them nonetheless. But that's where my laziness, sort of, or the stereotypical laziness for an INTP, stems from. But I'm not lazy, and I won't even champion that statement of me being lazy, because I think that there's two things going on. Oftentimes what people consider work, or what people consider doing, has to do with external gains and achieving stepping up bureaucratic ladders and metrics and dealing with those things, and that's not where my focus is and probably never will be. But I think that's one thing, and I think too that my orientation as an INTP, I'm an epistemologist by nature to a very strong extent. I'm concerned with knowledge structures and how they emerge, and what constitutes them, and if they're true or false. So much of the world, at least the Western world, is currently set up to where you don't have to figure anything out. You don't have to solve any problems. Everything is made ready for you. It's easy. Life is so lackadaisical and unengaging. It's just primarily that most of the world is uninteresting and unengaging. I don't want to participate or sort of commune, because to me it's scraps, trash, and heap. I don't care to mess around with any of this because it's so trivial and superficial and cheap to me, and just my sort of motivational orientation. Just nothing about it. A lot of things in the world don't scream out to me, come partake, because they just, I'm going to analyze them, and at a certain base level, they stop. They don't have the depth. They don't have the depth and the engagement that I'm internally seeking or that I can internally validate for myself what an insight, a revelation, and a creative breakthrough can do for me internally. The external world just really doesn't do a good job at matching that. So that's another area why I might appear lazy, but I'm getting to the point where these are all the yes factors, and I'm getting to the no factor. Now, I think another thing that goes on with many INTPs, or quite many types in general, is that they don't understand the role of the inferior function, and in the way that Jung described it, they don't engage it in that manner. And so what Jung said about the inferior function is that it's mostly unconscious, and that one's integrating of it is by orientating themselves towards the unconscious. The inferior function is the personalities or the ego's gateway or intermediary communal aspect to the unconscious, and that's how the individual engages the unconscious. Their motivation and their meaning is deriving from their relationship with the inferior function. And I think so many INTPs lose this. I think so many types lose this in general. You don't integrate the inferior function to just be a more stable person, and so much so that you get along better with the world, but you integrate the inferior function. You pay attention to the inferior function to figure out exactly how you should go and the direction you should have in your life in some respects, and approximating you more towards your ideal self, and the self-actualization and differentiating or individuating landscape that Jung spoke of. And that's how I deal with extroverted feeling, and I have integrated it despite some of the videos I've made about my relationship with my emotions. I do have a benevolent, humanistic kindness, benefactory mode to myself that I extend to other people, and that I even extend through these videos and sharing information with the rest of the world and trying to debunk things and give insight. It's extroverted feeling which is giving me the impetus to do these things. There's also extroverted feeling that tells me that I need to be in a community of intellectuals to where I can share ideas and sort of vindicate and revivify it to some extent, and why I even have the goal of being a mathematician and a physicist in the first place. It has more to do with extroverted feeling than it has anything to do with introverted thinking. And I think for the most parts that so many individuals, not just INTPs, don't really know what to do with themselves, to whereas I know what to do with myself. I ignore a lot of the world because I know what to do with myself, insofar as I know where I'm going and why I'm going there. I think many INTPs, because they neglect their inferior function, they don't have that sort of direction. I know how easy it is for me to fall into nihilism, and per se, and having a very negative. It's not just pessimism, because I think by nature I'm a pessimist, and it's not that there's anything wrong with pessimism per se, but I think by nature I'm a pessimist. But I shouldn't be nihilistic, and I dealt with the problem of nihilism, but it's to say that I engaged my inferior function, and I am engaging and communing with my inferior function in the way that Jung proposed for me to do so, and because of that, I do things, I produce things. I think that all types, we have our media, we have our homunculus and tools to design for the rest of the typological ecology, the community of existence that exists, the community of existence that is humanity, that fraternity, that brotherhood. We all partake and contribute in that sort of feast in some manner, and I'm trying to live that out to the strongest extent in which I can as an INTP, and this keeps me from being lazy, as anyone would even think of it. I know for a very long time this problem of being engaged and this problem of not having any real direction or meaning is what prevented me from moving my feet. But once I actually establish a relationship with my inferior function and derive some meaning from that communion, I knew, and you can't call me lazy, and you couldn't call me lazy at that point in time in my life because I'm consistently producing things. And also, I think it's just this thing about not knowing where to go for a lot of INTPs. I remember, it's just for so much of life, it's so drab and shallow and disengaging. It just doesn't make you, because so I think to back up for an INTP, it goes a little like this. You come into the world and you are what you are and who you are very distinctly from an early age, and so much of the world is not set up for you, and so much of the world will disdain you because it doesn't quite understand you, and it not being set up to engage you, and the communal ethos that surrounds you is one that rejects you. Just to engage is not, it's not an impetus, really a very strong impetus to do it in the first place. And any sort of natural sentiment that came with that, and being just a human being, is sort of stuffed down under the rug because of the receptivity of the world. So the INTPs, they don't really want to go out and do, and I don't leave my room much, so it's not like I'm saying go and travel all of Western Europe or something. But what I am saying is that the idea of work and accomplishing things, I have my work, and there are things I wish I look to accomplish, and many of those things are intellectual things. They're things that only I'm going to be able to see, or I'm going to be able to tell. Rectifying the contradictions within my mind. It's not until I had an INTJ friend who really implored and encouraged me to join my school's debate team and release and write some papers and make videos and things like that, give my ideas some sort of vehicle for their expression. But so that wasn't an intention of mine, but my INTJ friend, they helped me do that. But it's just to say that I have work, and I have things I want to accomplish. I have dreams and I have goals, per se. And I think that INTPs, many of them, they just don't have goals. But if they had goals, they would not be as they wouldn't get the prognosis of lazy, or just epidemically lazy, as the claims are for INTPs. And I mean, just for me, discovering physics and mathematics, I remember it so well because before, I don't like school at all. So that's something I should say. Even though I'm going to college and I'm getting a degree, I'm going to get my PhD in physics, but I don't like school, university, academia. I don't like them, but I'm doing it because I know that in the end it will mean something tremendously for me to be able to go and see what it is I'm trying to see by getting to the height of the academic world and being able to have access to the information, the peers, and the knowledge, really, that will help me sort of straighten out some of the in the research. Just there's so much. But I won't. It's extroverted intuition and extroverted feeling that are leading me there to some respects. But I won't digress on that much more. But I'll just say that the reason I even got that goal, because for a short while I was just sort of meandering through school, and I didn't really want to do anything. I just knew I had to be there because I didn't want to be in somebody's I didn't want to be a fry cook at McDonald's. You know, I had several jobs like that, and I just said, to hell with this, I'm done. And I went to school, and because I didn't like high school, so the minute I got out of high school, I was like, I'm done with school forever. And then I went and worked at Lowe's and Target retail, Yeah, any INTP out there knows retail. Yeah, it'll make you change your mind very quickly about what you're going to do with yourself. And I just experienced some retail and some fast food, and I was like, no more, please. And I went to school, but at the same time, I didn't like school per se, and it's dreadfully boring and unengaging. So I didn't really do much, and teachers, they didn't really think I was bright or anything like that. I went very much unnoticed in classrooms, and because I'm a fairly unassuming person out in public. If I, you won't notice me really, and I try to go unnoticed quite often. But so just to say that no, so there was no reason or no real incentive for me to be in school other than the fact that I hated what life would be if I didn't have some sort of degree. And there was a teacher who gave me 6 Easy Pieces by Richard Feynman, because at this point in time I didn't know anything about physics. So I'm from the ghetto. We don't have things like that there. I didn't know anything about mathematics. I didn't know anything about physics other than just what you generally learn in school. And when I say I didn't know anything, I mean as in I didn't have an appreciation for them as any more than scholastic subjects. They were things that you did in school, but they weren't things that existed out in the world or had any sort of interest or palpability to them. And so he gave me this book, 6 Easy Pieces by Richard Feynman. And I read that thing, and I was like, I want more of this. And I found the messenger lectures that Feynman gave at Cornell on YouTube, and I watched every single one of them. And I thought, I want to do that. That's what I need to do. And so I forced myself to take the mathematics, because I really didn't want to take all that math, but because I didn't think I was going to like it, because my last experience of math was just banally learning through rote all these formulas and just wanting to shoot myself, because I hated just the way that everything was shown in high school. Oh god. Anyways, I had troublesome memories. I don't even like to think about high school. But no, so I had a very, very strong distaste for mathematics, at least through my experience of learning it. But then I went into this classroom, and I had one of the best, most meaningful and happenstance encounters I could have ever had in my academic career. And this was probably, she is going to be in my mind the best professor I had, and she really engaged me and showed me. This was a college algebra class, and she showed me what math was per se through proofs and the language, and taught me it. I didn't know it at the time, but was teaching me calculus at the same time she was teaching me college algebra, because she just noticed that the college algebra really, it was interesting to me, but that's not where my mind was going. So she was teaching me calculus and she was teaching me college algebra simultaneously at the same time, and I thought this was amazing stuff. You can actually figure out things about the world with this. You can't do that with college algebra, but you can do that with calculus. So she saw that's what I wanted to do, so she knew I wanted to be a physicist, and so that's what, well, at that time I didn't know what I wanted to be, but I was interested in physics, and so she engaged that interest, and that's how I started doing math. And I got a C in that class. I got a C in most classes, because I didn't turn in any homework. I didn't do anything. I just like took the test. And if I didn't push myself. I just don't like to do that. I still don't really push myself that much. I'm laughing now, but I'm a better student, but I'm still not a very good student. I'm just brilliant. That's all I am, but I'm not a very good student. But anyways, I do better now. Because I actually do my homework. But that's about all that's changed. Whatever. Anyways, I started, Feynman and this professor, they really turned my interest towards math and physics. But then what really pushed it over the edge was, I had a friend. They weren't very good at math, but they had this problem that their teacher had given them for extra credit in this and I think it was a calculus class. I hadn't taken calculus, but it was for Calc 1, and they had this problem that they could do for extra credit, and my friend gave me the paper. I don't know why in the heck they thought to ask me, because I was getting C's. At this point in time, I was in trigonometry, and I exited with a C. So I mean, like, I C in college algebra, C in trigonometry. I'm not seeing why anybody would think he may know something about mathematics. And so he gave me this paper, and I looked at it, and I noticed something, because even though I learn things, and I'm autodidactic, so whenever I leave the classroom, that's when I really teach myself, and over the summer, I really master things because I sit down and I study them and I work with them and things like that, so, even though I got in C's in those class, like, I was just profoundly good at algebra at that point in time, and so he gave me this, paper, this problem, and I saw just, very counterintuitive in some ways, but straightforward manipulation of the problem that would make it very easy to solve. And when I did that, and he saw that, and he was just like, "Wow, that was amazing." And I thought, "Wow, that was amazing." I thought the same. We thought it at the same time. Wow, it was amazing. Like, yeah, I can do this with mathematics. And he's like, "You can do this with mathematics." And I was like, "Yes, I can do this with mathematics. It's very interesting." And so I saw that professor again, and I took her for calculus, and I wound up no, excuse me, saw her again. I spoke with her, and she recommended me to take the calculus class from this other professor at my school, and she really took to my abilities, because I was not aware that I had the abilities that I had, and she noticed them immediately and gave me just a great deal of resources, and challenged me in a way, and engaged me in the classroom in a way that no professor had ever had before. And thanks to her, I'm a embedded tutor in a few classes, a calculus class and a pre-calculus class and a college algebra class, and I work for the math tutoring and learning center at my school. So I mean, all those opportunities came from me being in her classroom, but it was just to say that just a few things, me engaging extroverted feeling, I knew that I needed to go and find a community and do something for a community with my mind. That's primarily what I knew I needed to do. So I hated the outside world, so I went to academia, hoping that it was the same sort of enlightenment, say, enlightenment-induced realm that it had been historically touted for being, and it's not. And college is very disappointing in this modern age, but it's just to say, so I went there because extroverted feeling led me there, and basically disillusionment. Extroverted feeling and disillusionment led me there. I found out things about myself. I achieved a great many opportunities, and I got possessed with the idea of mastery. And if I don't find the Feynman, if I don't have the professors, I don't have this goal. And I don't have this motivation and this sort of drive. It's like I'm an INTP, but I'm not lazy. I have a very strong drive and bent towards me to achieve very specific things. Well, not as specific, so no, not really. But it's like, it's a general drive and general idea of where I want to go, and I don't know exactly. Like, people ask me all the time, what are you going to do with a PhD in physics? I don't know. It's like, I don't know. It's like, I have to get it. It's like, you got to do a job. It's like, yeah, but do I know what job that's going to be? I don't know. And I don't really know necessarily what I want to do for the community. I just know that extroverted feeling is telling me, go do something for a community with your mind. So I'm going to figure out through trial and error, basically, or just exploration, go figure extroverted intuition, what that really is. But I'm just not lazy. And I think that for an INTP and their laziness, the symptoms may be one thing, but their cause isn't necessarily because of the personality. It has something to do with the structure of society, their inability to engage their inferior function, and that subsequently blocking them from finding a true goal or drive to go towards something or be involved in something in life. And that's what you're looking at, but it's not systemic laziness in the sense that it's an internalized, it's inherently extant within their existence and with their being. I mean, I'm lazy about a lot of things, don't get me wrong. I never clean my room. There's a lot of things I don't do. But I think Einstein is a great example. There's a lot of Darwin. There's so many other INTPs throughout history that are good examples. We may not do the bureaucratic things and the small things that SJs and really just SJs deem as important, and Js in general, judgers, NJs, SJs, TJs, we don't exactly do the things that they think are important, but when we find things that engage us and when we have a goal, even if it doesn't have to be as definite as an ENTJ will tell you, we can do extraordinary things and are motivated to do extraordinary things in some respects. And most INTPs, you're just waiting to be engaged. It's not necessarily that they're lazy. At least I know I'm not lazy, and I know it wasn't a problem with laziness, but more so a problem with I didn't know what to do with myself, and I was very disillusioned by the world. So so that's my thoughts on INTPs and laziness, or at least laziness in me. I'm not lazy. No, I don't accomplish a lot of things per se in terms of husbandry and the household items, nor do I file my taxes on time, nor do I take care of every engagement. But I gotta say, I got my paperwork done for my employment at the school at a very alarmingly timely rate. I was very proud of myself for that one. But it's not to say all the other things that I do. I mean, the amount of videos I make and the amount of research I do, the amount of tutoring I do, the amount of problems I solve, the amount of papers I write. It frightens my teachers sometimes how prolific I can be in some respects. I mean, in terms of math and physics problems, I'm doing about 300 to 500 a day at times. It depends if I'm on break, but it's like I'm not lazy. I'll just say that, and it's in some respects. So it's a yes and a no on my laziness, but most of it has to do with my motivation and my goals. And INTPs just have a problem with motivation because they don't know how to engage their inferior function. Most of them, as Jung encouraged one to. I am so fortunate for finding Carl Jung's work. I'm fortunate for having those professors. I'm fortunate for reading Feynman and watching him on YouTube, and I'm fortunate for the friend who asked me for help on that math problem. Those small aspects, they sort of strung themselves together to make me, in some respects, what I am. I had no idea I was anything like an intellectual until I stepped onto a college campus. Okay, so that's the video. Thank you.